Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about the new raid mods and just, well, everything about them. For those not in the loop, the raid mods are special mods that come built into raid gear that buff your character while in any portion of the Leviathan, but only there. So Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, and whatever the next raid lair is, if it's in the Leviathan. The raid mods specifically can be swapped out at any time for one Callus token, but note that any raid mod or any mod in general will destroy the currently equipped mod, which is a little unfortunate. If you have any raid gear already, they are built in. You don't need to get new armor. The mods are very strong, so I do think it is worth using in certain slots. We will talk about that later though. As for what the mods actually do, in the Helm slot is probably the weakest of the perks, where using your super instantly refreshes your grenade cooldown. There are 3 elemental variants: Arc, Solar, and Void Super. In the arms, we have 3 options. You can either buff your outgoing or reduce incoming damage by 20% after getting a melee kill, or you can get a chance to spawn power ammo after getting a melee kill. Note that it is just a melee kill. It is not a charged melee kill, so any melee kill works. In the chest slot, we have a buff that buffs your power weapon damage by 15% for 30 seconds after getting a kill against a challenging enemy. A challenging enemy is a yellow health bar enemy. This buff refreshes when you get another kill on a challenging enemy. In the leg slot, we have the same buff, but for energy weapons without the challenging enemy qualifier, but the buff only lasts 10 seconds. It also refreshes on kill. Finally, the class item boosts your ability damage by 25%, and this includes supers. This begs the question, what stacks with what? Fortunately, this question is very easy to answer. Everything stacks with everything. To test this, I simply went down the list and got every single combination of buff possible, and I shot some dudes. In my examples, I used a 335 Warlock with a 335 Darkest Before Pulse Rifle. The bonuses are multiplicative, not additive, so the more you stack those buffs, the better. That also means that it doesn't matter the order that you stack your buffs. As long as you get them and they are on you active, that's what matters. I also wanted to check on Empowering Rift, and sure enough, it does stack with Striking Hand and Energized. On screen is a chart of all of my findings, but it ultimately comes down to get all of the buffs all of the time. Every buff. Whenever you can get a buff, get it. There's no reason not to buff yourself. The Killing Blow is what will trigger a buff happening. If you do not get the Killing Blow, you will not get the buff. So do these mods really change up any raid strategies? Not really, not too much. But probably the easiest thing to add to your strategy is the inclusion of a melee kill on something before you go do a bunch of damage to something, provided you could get that melee kill very quickly. Examples include the Pleasure Garden, Callus, and Argos. During the damage portion of the Pleasure Garden, you will have your beast to kill, but there will also be a lot of other smaller spawning beasts coming from the walls. Granted, these take a little while to spawn and they don't always patrol near you, but if you can find one, you can melee it and then unload upon your beast. With high enough stacks, this probably isn't necessary, but it's just there as a backup. During Callus, it's basically the same thing. After everyone is teleported back into the throne room, you should group up and do your normal countdown, but instead of jumping up onto the plate, everyone should melee kill a beast, preferably a normal melee and not an AoE based one so that you don't hog all the kills. And then you jump on the plate and unload onto the boss, giving you a 20% damage bonus during the most important part of the damage phase. Very simple, huge buff. Celestial Nighthawk Hunters? Yeah, make sure you have that class item on, and you're going to have a lot of fun with this and any other encounter.
Pop Golding. Get on plate. 3, 2, 1, shoot.
Finally, during Argos, same concept. As you're bringing down the shield to start damage on Argos, try to find a goblin to punch it dead, and then go to town on Argos. This can get a little awkward with everyone rushing around to try to get a kill though. Make sure you let goblins walk up to you. Don't kill them right as they spawn, because otherwise you're going to need to run down, then run back up, and that's a lot of time wasted. This encounter can also utilize the power weapon damage buff a little bit better than any other encounter, because Minotaurs are yellow health bar enemies. Ideally, you'd get one weak with a normal weapon, then rocket it down, collect the ammo that it drops, and then blast away at the boss. However, if we use data from our Argos DPS video, there is a breaking point where it may not be worth bothering to do this. An average cluster bomb rocket does about 83 to 85,000 damage to Argos. Again, there is extreme variance, so it's not a perfect number. It's just the average of all of the data that I've gotten. If you use a rocket to kill a Minotaur to proc the buff, but then don't get the ammo, you need to be doing an average of 100,000 damage per rocket in order just to break even with a non-buffed rocket performance. This assumes that your non-buffed performance is 6 rockets and your buffed performance is 5. 100,000 damage per rocket is not really something in your control though. So if you are going to do this, be sure to scoop that extra bit of ammo and do it quickly. The more time you waste collecting ammo or buffing, the less valuable this buff is going to be. Fortunately, the power weapon version of the buff lasts 30 seconds, so you have a lot of time to prepare for this. So which mods should you even bother using? Well, the arms and class item mods are really darn good, especially depending on your subclass. So I would say those are a definite equip at nearly all times while in the raid. Below that are probably the legs with the energy weapon damage buff. You use your energy probably a fair amount of the time, and if you do, then I would say use it. I use arms, leg, and class item. Beneath that is the power weapon buff because it does have some restrictions. And then finally, I would not bother with the helm mod right now. It is not a great bonus compared to the rest of the mods, especially if you're using some sort of exotic helm. I would like to see this mod buffed to include maybe some sort of damage buff with their grenade, despite the fact that a lot of grenades are already really strong for damage, and we have the class item mod, which also buffs your grenade damage. Or if they don't want to do that, they can just do something entirely different. All in all, I really like these mods. Prestige mode feels much less like a chore now, which is good considering that the Prestige and normal mode drops are finally together again. They are very potent. They make me feel strong. They let me do awesome things, like 1,000,000 damage with the Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun shot. But there's a skill element to them with regards to stacking your buffs. I normally would never go for melee kills in the raid, Prestige or normal. Now, I get to change up my gameplay to accommodate for these new buffs. I change up my playstyle. Not significantly, but it's a little something. I would like to see a situation where you can have both a raid mod and a regular mod equipped at the same time. I personally like having different sets of gear that are better at certain things compared to others, but I think the more general community would appreciate something like that, especially considering, at least right now, pre-rework, mods are not incredibly impactful on gameplay. Is it worth coming back to the game for just the raid mods alone? Probably not, maybe not. But I do think it'll make raid clears much more enjoyable, or at the very least, easier. This wasn't something really designed to be this huge pull, though. At least I don't think so. Otherwise, the mods are good. They're fun to use in the raid. They make me feel strong when I'm fully decked out in awesome gear, and I think that's cool. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.